the Arlo and Kevin show.
Well then, let's focus on our work together, our explorations, our and to some extent our discoveries. Last week we did a practice that continually asked the question, what is aliveness? And we let the answer to that question be our experience. And what parts of our experience seemed to be connected to the question, particularly the word aliveness. Aliveness. So today's practice is somewhat parallel. It's more oriented towards integrating what shows up. Integrating what shows up. By integration, well, let's pause for a moment. Here's one example of an integration. Here's an apple. I eat it. I digest it. And most of that apple becomes this body and the energy of this body. I would call that a form of integration. Another kind of integration is allowing for the richness and the breadth of emotional experience. The other night, I had a dream, and in the dream, I said, I said one sentence with intense anger, like the kind of intensity that I'm not aware of in my waking life. And it is, for me, a practice to have that kind of emotion as part of my overall experience. So, in this way, I'm welcoming that emotion, which is different than, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. This is wrong, or it's bad, or I'm wrong, or I'm bad because of this emotion. One of the things that meditation helps us do is face what's real here, now. The Zen people have a phrase that their the goal of their practice of meditation is to face everything. Face everything. So this idea of being able to welcome everything is moving in the same direction as the Zen tradition, and this notion of integration is also used a lot in psychotherapy and also psychedelic assisted therapy, where let's say you're using a psychedelic and there is a memory that emerges, or yeah, let's say a memory from something that happened last week, and there's a lot of anger or irritation around that. The psychedelic assisted therapy protocol is to go towards that anger in your body in real time. I know that we're talking about a memory that foments the anger, but the invitation is to go into what's happening in the body in real time and allow for that or welcome that. So in today's practice, as we notice what is entering our field of awareness, our orientation to whatever we notice is welcoming. I want to talk about this phrase, field of awareness. When I use that phrase, I'm not talking about a pasture where you see goats and cows happily grazing. I'm talking more about like a force field. Like if you imagine a magnet has a force field around it that draws from all directions. By the way, it also repels from all directions. So that if you bring a positive end and a negative end together, they draw each other towards one another. If you bring a positive end and another positive end, they push each other away. But that's 360 times spherical. So it's that notion of maybe like a force field. So as we do this meditation, which is, by the way, quite similar to meditation in the tradition that I trained in Burma, Vipassana meditation, or this practice, it is similar to what the traditions called choiceless awareness. Remember last week, we were orienting towards a very specific question that was orienting our attention. What is aliveness? This week, there is no question. There is awakeness or attention, and whatever enters the field of that attention, that is what we welcome. For some people, this is a kind of meditation that's difficult because a thought can enter the field of awareness, or a memory can enter the field of awareness subconsciously, and our attention just goes with that thought subconsciously. That means that we're not aware of what's happening. Sooner or later, we wake up and we realize, oh, I'm involved with the thought. And actually, this is part of my meditation. Whatever I was thinking about, I absorb that, I integrate that, I welcome that. And 9 times out of 10, that process, it turns that thought or that memory into awareness. And it is as though the memory dissolves in awareness. Okay, so that's what I've got as an explanation. Let's check in to see if there are questions or comments about what you've heard so far. And while
I
you do
just
that,
have I,
I'm
I
going
just
to
have
take off the layer.
I just have one share, and it's something that I was told a long time ago that has stuck with me and made a difference. Is in the waking up community, you hear the word integration or integrity a lot, and a lot of it, I think a lot of people, including myself, often interpret the word integrity as kind of a state of taking the moral high ground.
Mm.
But the the actual definition of integrity is the state of being whole and undivided. And when I hold that definition, it's like, being in integrity takes on a very subtly different but important dimension to me, that state of wholeness. So that's one that's mattered to me. So I just toss it out for others to consider. I think it's useful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Yes, Marion?
Uh, thank you, Greg. Can you tie awareness to the word focus? Because that's where I am going, and I'm not sure that's where I should be going.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. For now, I want us to consider awareness as its own thing. Awareness, or we could say consciousness, but for now, let's use the word awareness because that's the word that you used. The capacity for knowing. If you recall, we did an exercise where on the wheel of awareness, where we imagined awareness leaving the hub and going out to a perimeter where there were different objects, like the objects of sight, the objects of hearing. Does this ring a bell? Or maybe we, okay, I'm seeing some heads. Yeah. Okay. So there's an example of uh, awareness knowing different aspects of experience from the outer world, the exteroception connecting with visual objects, hearing objects, tasting objects. And then there are internal sensations that awareness can know or notice, as well as thoughts, as well as emotions and relationships. So those were the kinds of things that we did a kind of a tour of what awareness can notice. Focus is it's more now I'm going to shift from the word awareness to attention. Attention is what we can focus on, where we direct the attention to a specific object, like the warm sun on my cheeks, like the taste of the chai, like the smile of the child. And sometimes what we've done in our class is focused attention on certain emotional states like loving kindness or gratitude. So focus it has two pieces to it. One is the ability to direct attention. For example, here's one I'd like you to experiment with. Direct your attention to your buttocks, where you feel the pressure, where your buttocks meet the chair, and now direct your attention to the skin, open to the air, or uncovered skin. Really different sensations right there. And your capacity to direct your attention to those very different sensations is part of focus. There's another part of focus, which is the capacity to sustain the attention there. So one is direction, the other is sustain attention.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to give you an example of not being able to sustain attention. At night, if it's past 9 o'clock, when I'm reading, oh my goodness, I've read the same paragraph 4 times because I get lost in, I'm no longer able to sustain that focus of attention. Yeah. Okay. Um, I wanted to swing back to Kevin's comment about integration as being Kevin, what was that again? A whole, and there was another word.
The state of being whole and undivided.
Whole and undivided. Okay. That's such an interesting definition, and it relates to our task or our project of today in this sense. One of the ways of thinking about health is that the body is integrated, and and this refers to mental health also. In this notion, integration is the linkage of differentiated parts. So there needs to be differentiated parts and they need to be linked. When there's this linkage of differentiated parts, then you've got integration, which means that you're more adaptable. You're more able to go with the flow. You've got more capacity for equanimity. There's more flexibility in how you think and how you respond. So, as we do this practice today, whatever shows up into your awareness could be, you can consider that a part that is now becoming linked with your awareness. Something shows up, you give that your attention, and it's linked through awareness. Are there other questions or comments before we practice? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So I'm going to set a timer for us. Well, for me. So our practice today will be 12 minutes, roughly. And I will guide part of it, the first part. So let's begin. Your posture or your position can be whatever you like. Your eyes can be open or closed. For now, put one hand over your heart and the other hand over the first hand. And let there be weight in the shoulders and arms so that you can feel that downward pressure on your chest. There's a gentle weight through your hands onto your chest. And you may notice that the hands are moving with each breath. Okay, so let the hands go to wherever they'll be comfortable. And notice the lingering sense of whatever is there after the hands have left the chest. Okay, so in this practice, we will welcome whatever shows up. And first, we'll do a little tour, a tour of what's here now. And check your hands. Notice how they feel in terms of temperature, and welcome the temperature of your hands. Notice what they're touching, if anything. Maybe it's just air, and see if you can feel the texture of whatever the hands are touching. And welcome the texture of what your hands are touching. Bring attention inside your torso to your spine. A long line from the pelvis at the bottom up into the head. Many, many parts to the spine. You may not be able to feel all the parts, but you may be able to have a sense of your spine and welcome that sense of spine. Turn your attention to your emotional state and see if you can notice and name whatever it is. Welcome that emotion. And there may be more than one. That's fine. Welcome them all. And sooner or later, there'll be thoughts. That's not a problem. When you wake up to the thinking, whether it's a visual, mental image, or mental talk, or the sense of dreaming, when you wake up to that, welcome the situation. Welcome the thought or the memory or the dream. And notice how it's different afterwards. So, for most of the rest of the meditation, I'll be quiet, welcoming the rest of this meditation. If you find yourself lost or distracted, it may help to land your attention on a sensation, something physical. It could be the pressure at your buttocks, or it could be the rise and fall of your chest and belly as you breathe. Or it could be the passage of air through your nostrils, touching your upper lip. We are practicing noticing without being sucked into or overwhelmed by what we notice. Sensations come and go, memories come and go, plans come and go. The thinking process is not a problem. It's one more thing to notice and let go of. What's it like to welcome your thoughts? But not be enslaved to them. Okay, there's our little crickets telling us 12 minutes is up. So, if your eyes are closed, keep them closed just for another minute or so, and let your body stretch in any way that helps the body to feel comfortable. Being still can be difficult for our bodies, and And when it feels like, oh, okay, yeah, that feels better. When you're ready, let your eyes come open if they're not yet, and bring your attention back to the screen. In the meditation, I use the phrase something like notice the thoughts and let go. I have noticed that there are some thoughts that don't seem to want to go. They are really, really sticky. The image I have is let them go is more like getting a bulldozer to push them away. And there are other thoughts that as soon as I know that I notice that there's that thought, poof, it turns into nothing, into space. So science has determined that salience or significance is a brain function. Like when something is important, according to the brain, that thing stays around a longer time. And emotion is a big part of what makes something salient in our brains. So if you just had a fight with your sweetheart before this session, it could be that parts of that fight were remembered, and it seemed like I can't let it go. It's sticking around. I don't want it to, but it seems to want to, because of the intensity, the emotionality, and the proximity in time. All three of those factors make some thoughts or images or word mental talk more difficult to release. Whereas if you think